Today we're going to talk about a book that has had much excitement here on BookTube. And that book is The Gracekeepers by Kirsty Logan. I was so excited and pumped up to finally get to read this book, and I finally got to get to it this month, and I'm so pleased that I did. This book is set within a dystopian-esque future, or as I'd rather see it, almost like an alternative outcome future to what our world could have been, say, had something gone badly wrong during the Industrial Revolution. Rising sea levels have left the world split into two. There are those who reside on land, known as the landlockers, and there are those who dwell on the sea, known as dumplings. We follow the story from two main perspectives. Firstly, we have Kalanesh, who is a landlocker who resides on an island by herself with the very lonely task of rescuing those who have been lost at sea. Secondly, we also have North. North is a circus performer who is aboard a travelling circus, a ship called the Excalibur, that travels around different islands, and she has the travel companion of a bear who is a part of her performance. As you can see from the cover, here is North and her bear, and on the back we have Kalanesh on a lonely island by herself. It is our two protagonists who, in unlikely events, lives become entangled together that makes this beautiful story. There is also multi-perspectives from different characters within the book, and these different perspectives are useful for filling in the gaps. However, you're not necessarily going to like all the voices that are included within this book. So getting into some of the themes of the book. There is one quote within the book that I found very profound, and it was, "Land decides water, not the other way around," which is a completely ridiculous quote if you think about it, because water is fluid and moves, but an island and land is this static thing. However, it is used to represent a landlocker's belief of their perceived privilege that they hold over the dumplings. Is it quite interesting putting it into a real world context, thinking about how much of the world's wealth is allotted to such a small minority percentage. However, that minority use that in an expense and to use their privilege against a much larger majority. Kirsty Logan has also interestingly been able to incorporate within the book themes and issues related to gender and sexuality, which are quite subtle in there, and I really appreciate it. It was really well done. Looking into the format of the book is quite interesting and is what makes it so beautiful. This book is written so beautifully, and it's constructed using theatrics and fantasy and combining them with folklore, and in particular especially Scottish folklore, which Kirsty Logan used into the construction of this book. And also there's almost an earthliness to it, and it's just so beautiful. The experience of reading this book also has a dreamlike quality to it, and I actually have quite an interesting theory related to this, because I know from watching a video that Kirsty Logan did with Jen Campbell. She wrote The Gracekeepers coming from quite a profound place of grief, and I think that does reflect on the book. The book reads in a dreamlike quality, and in a certain type of dream. There's dreams that people have if you've been through a traumatic experience, or if you're going through big life experiences at a particular moment. Dreams take on this form that's almost contradictory. They seem to make absolutely no sense and are ridiculous, and they're just weird, but at the same time they make perfect sense. They're just absolute sense to that moment, and it's something that's hard to explain, but you can only understand it if you've gone through it. And that almost seems like it makes absolutely no sense, but it does if you've been through it. It's a very personal experience. And she also then uses the very traditional elements of death and rebirth, and yeah, you can see that really deep personal level that she's came when she's written it. It kind of feels like a place that I've been to before, and I feel it in the way that it's constructed, and I know that probably makes no sense at all. I apologise, but it's the only way I can describe it. It is a beautiful book. It is an atmospheric book, but it's not necessarily a happy book, but it doesn't need to be, because that's not what makes it the book that it is. In fact, I thought the big selling point of the Gracekeepers for me was going to be the circus element of it, because I love circus books. But actually it really wasn't the biggest part of the book that I love, and in fact I think I preferred the narratives that came from Callanish rather than North. I just love the very melancholic and just the really deep-rooted sadness in Callanish, and it's beautiful. There is also some voices that you don't necessarily like, but they make the book what it is and they help fill in the gaps, and they also evoke emotion. Just because there's people in a book that you don't like doesn't mean that they don't help add to a book, because they help to evoke an emotion in you that otherwise you wouldn't have had. So it's not that it's a bad element of the book, because it still stirred something within you. But this book is so beautiful, and I haven't watched many videos on it because I wanted this to come out in my words and me trying to explain it the way it is. I know Chauncey from Chauncey Boddington did a interview with Kirsty Logan, which I'm now going to have to go and watch. So this is such a beautiful book, and don't even be sold on the fact that it's a circus book. Just know that it's beautiful and that it comes from a really deep place. So that is my rather quick review, and I hope it made sense on the Gracekeepers. If you liked this video, please do give it a big thumbs up, and as always, links to my other social media will be listed down below. If you have read the Gracekeepers, please do let me know also down below, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe, join our family, you'll be most warmly welcome, and until the next video guys, bye. But since it's now July, I thought I could do a little rundown of my top 5 books that I've read so far in 2015.